As we bring up the next talk, I'd like to say a couple things about our next speaker. This gentleman, Brian, I think you and I might have come out right around the same time. Where are you? Raise your hand. Oh, there you are, buddy. You and I came out almost right around the same time. What you have done with your career has truly been awe-inspiring. I've seen a lot of your posts on social media, and what you've done in so many other countries and for so many other underprivileged and third world countries is truly awe-inspiring. And I think I share the same sentiments, or should I say the group here shares the same sentiments as I do when seeing what you're doing with your career, and really looking forward to having you come up here and talk about Ukraine and what you're doing there. All right, Brian Forsberg, everybody.
Hey, good morning. Thanks, Richard, for that wonderful introduction, and thank you, Richard, from the UK for the invitation, and welcome everybody here to Sanibel. I'm Brian. I'm the Chief Perfusionist and sit on the founding board of the Cardiac Alliance, which we're going to talk about today, and a little about a primer of Ukraine and some perfusion data from there, and then I'll share a quick little movie about our trip to Lviv back right when the war started in March. So we are a charity based out of Memphis, Tennessee, founded in 1994 by William Novick. He is our chief surgeon and president of the charity. And in 1994 it was founded, and we changed to International Children's Heart Foundation to the Global Novick Cardiac Alliance. And then just recently we just rebranded everything, as you can see by our new slides and fancy logo, that we're now the Global Cardiac Alliance. We wanted to kind of shift our focus towards as being a completely global company, charity, to serve the world. At the end of the day, this is kind of our mantra, and we live and breathe this every day as we travel around the world. Low middle income country is the new kind of word, PC word for, instead of saying like a third world country, this is kind of like what the World Bank has decided to label it. So this is our So our founding principles and core principles, we collaborate. So we work with teams from all over the world. We bring volunteers from every country almost to build our teams and go into these countries and help. We educate them as far as peer-to-peer learning, perfusion to perfusionists, anesthesia, surgeon, as well as we bring in a nurse coordinator on every trip that educates the ICU nursing team, as well as any education they want. As far as innovation, we collect a vast amount of data for all of our trips and all of our patients, and we house it, and we basically use that to write papers and disseminate our information across different journals and publish. And then sustain. So sustainability is very important to us. We try to go into countries that want to build a stable program, and we continue to send help supplies to build those programs and kind of mentor them to get them to the point that we want. So this is the countries that we assist. As you can see on the map, there's a lot of Middle East, a lot of Eastern Europe, all these low middle income countries that need help. We are very active in Africa right now. We have several sites that we're going to quite frequently. Congo and Rwanda are two, and then we're getting ready to go into Angola and Egypt as well. I was just in Cairo a few weeks ago. So with all these countries that we serve and everywhere we go, we have to get volunteers. So our volunteers come from like I said, all over the world. It's pretty cool when you get an entire team of volunteers that are from different centers from all over the world and come together and be able to do an operation that's pretty spectacular. So over the course of our charity, like I said, it was 30 years running now almost, we've had 477 volunteers from across the world, which is incredible, and represented by 43 countries. And it's also, important to say a lot of our countries that have progressed and have become self-sustaining centers for pediatric congenital heart disease, we take those staff members from those hospitals and they travel with us as well. So we have a lot of intensivists from Ukraine that travel with us now as staff members or volunteers, which is great. So some of the data, I'm a little lost. So this is our data source from 1993 in Memphis. So this is when we were bringing patients into the country. Dr. Novick was working at Le Bonheur in Memphis, and they were bringing patients to the country and operating on them. He found that this was unsustainable and then decided to start going out. So our first huge success in trips were in Croatia in the early 90s, and then progressed into the International Children's Heart Foundation, in which we were really heavily involved in Iraq for a very long time post-war. And then kind of the present day from 2014 on is kind of when we became the Global Cardiac Alliance and started operating even in different countries as far as, and you can see over the course of this 10-year, over 10,000 operations, and our mortality hovers around 3% for all comers, which is pretty great for all over. So with this, I'll do a little plug as far as trips coming up. We are in May now, so we have Lubumbashi coming up in Democratic Republic of Congo. It's actually a fun place to visit. The hospital is super cool. It's a little difficult to get to flying-wise, but the hotel is really nice, and the people are super friendly and just happy, and they're really wanting to learn. There's a couple perfusionists there, anesthesia, that really love the program, and the city has really embraced the program as well. So that's coming up in May, and then we're going back to Lviv, which I'll kind of talk about our previous trips there, and Kigali. At this point, I also want to say, you know, I'm lucky to work for a company that allows us, we get 1 week a year of volunteer time off, which is fantastic. So, you know, I know it's hard for people to take 2 weeks off work or 1 week. So it's great to be able to have a company that will allow you to take some time off for some volunteer work. So we'll switch gears from the charity and talk about the charity and our work in Ukraine. So at the end of the Cold War in the fall of the USSR, basically the Iron Curtain came down, and Ukraine shortly thereafter declared their independence. They're adopted constitution, so they have a prime minister and a president, which everyone knows the president, you know, right after the war and everything is Volodymyr Zelensky. He used to be a movie star, but he's the current president, has been the president during the entire war that has been happening. So Ukraine started to have issues in 2014 when Russia annexed Crimea and kind of invaded, and then we're in the eastern side of the Donetsk. And then remember, so basically that happened in July or March, and then a few months later they shot that Malaysian airliner out of the sky by accident. And then Putin invaded Ukraine in 2022. And to this day, the war continues. Here's some population stats about Ukraine, and I just kind of put US up there as a kind of a mirror to look at the population. And the numbers that are affected in the congenital heart disease is basically very statistical all over the world. The birth rate continues to decline in Ukraine due to, you know, people not having babies to the war, immigration, leaving, all this stuff comes into play for population during a war and in terms of crisis. And speaking of conflicts, this is a website that I monitor frequently. Every year they post the top conflicts to watch in the world. You can see Gaza is obviously #1 this year, but Ukraine has been on that list for a very long time due to the threat from Russia. So where do we work? So these are the cities that we used to assist in Ukraine prior to the war. So you can see in the east, we have Kharkiv, which is one of our major centers that is actually fully sustained, operating on their own. They have their own surgeons, perfusionists, entire team. They're great. Almost all of them travel with us to other countries for volunteer trips. And then Odessa is down there on the coast. So the eastern side is kind of where the war is raging, and then the Crimea Peninsula. Over into Kyiv, which is the capital, and then Lviv, which is all the way west. And then after the invasion, here's where we are now. So we are only available to go to Lviv. There's still no flights into Ukraine, so we have to fly into Poland and then cross the border. And Lviv is basically right on the border. It's easy to get to, and it's relatively safe right now as far as the invasion and the war is raging, like I said, over in the east region. Kharkiv is definitely under constant threat, as well as Odessa. This is the current control of Russian territory in the Ukrainian country. So obviously Crimea, Donetsk, everything in the east, right up onto the border of Kharkiv. So what's left after this invasion? So before the invasion, Kyiv had 3 centers, Kharkiv had 1, Donetsk had 1, Odessa had 1. These are all the cardiac centers in Ukraine doing open heart surgery. And Lviv didn't even have a program at this point. Post-invasion, Kyiv is down to 1 center that's operating right now. Kharkiv is 0, and Donetsk was actually lost when the Crimea was annexed by Russia back in 2014. So it's been a while since they've reported data or anything, because it's basically in Russian territory now. And Odessa continues to operate, and now Lviv is where we've been going and helping out these past few years after the war, is the program in the West. And as you can see, it's a fairly large country. And with only 3 centers operating, it's pretty geographically hard to get the kids from places. We operated on 2 kids from Odessa in Lviv when I was there in March a few years ago. So this is the Ukrainian data reported from my friend who's a interventional cardiologist in Kharkiv, actually. He travels with us as well, and he comes over to Lviv to do caths when we're there on site. So like I said, with the population stats, the burden of CHD in Ukraine is around 3,000 cases a year. And you can see they kept up pretty good as far as the open heart surgery without bypass, with bypass, and the interventions, and a great mortality. I mean, they do great work in Ukraine, and they do a lot of it in all the big centers. Mostly the fall off is what we've seen is supplies, right? So they can't get tubing packs, they can't get oxygenators, interventionalists can't get balloons, they can't get stents, and this is basically the biggest hang up for providing care. They have the knowledge, they have infrastructure, it's supplies. So we have been really good at trying to gather as much as we can from the United States and elsewhere in the world, and sending huge pallets over from Poland with supplies to keep their operation rooms running. So for the Cardiac Alliance, this is just our trips and our surgery that we've done in Ukraine. Obviously, Kharkiv is one of our top cities that we've traveled to over many, many years. I've been to Kharkiv probably, 6 times, and it's great every time. And now, like I said, they're completely self-sufficient, and all their team members travel with us, around the world. Kyiv has always been the capital with huge university settings and lots of surgery happening. They continue to do so, just at a reduced capacity due to supplies. And then Lviv is our newest site that we visit, and we've been there 8 times. 2 were pre-invasion. 1 was basically weeks before the invasion happened, and then we'll talk about my trip there that happened 17 days after the invasion. This is assisted operations for a lifetime for the charity. So obviously Kharkiv is the most trip count, and 617 operations done there, 871 total. Odessa and then Lviv is the one that's just kind of breaking out now. So we're basically capacity building and trying to get Lviv to be doing, hopefully 20 ops per trip. Right now, again, that's reduced because we have to hand carry everything across the border to do those operations. This is a quick slide just so you pre and post the number of operations. Obviously, it's trending to grow. We're trying to get it bigger and just need more help, more supplies. This is an image, this is the last slide, for the border crossing. So basically, in March of 2021, the invasion happened February 24th, and we went to Ukraine on March 12th. We flew into Poland and crossed the border. So this is the image of the border. Crossing. There's a tiny little town, rural town on the outskirts of Lviv and Krakow. So it's basically right in the middle of Krakow and Lviv. We took a large bus full of our team and all our supplies. And this was the last image we saw before we crossed into Ukraine. And with that, I have a video that kind of sums up our trip in Ukraine, and wanted to give you guys a little sneak peek of it. But yeah, so I appreciate everything. And just remember, this is a huge world. And, to show a little compassion for people that are suffering means a lot. And, more than you think, anything helps. So we really appreciate it. And with that, I'll start a video. There you go.
So we're going to do a little short rounds in the ICU here so that you know what's going on. This Michelle was operated on yesterday, and as you can see, he's happy as a clam, okay? And so that was the fourth case. And the fifth case is this baby over here who's just operated on today. And the sixth case is still in the operating room because the general surgeon's had to fix something in the stomach on top of the heart operation that we did. So it's been with 6 kids operating on.
Hey.
Yeah. Brian, excellent job.
Thanks.
I mean, I don't know if this whole room should have a couple tears coming out of their eyes. That's for darn sure. You do amazing work. It hits really right to the heart, and I'm looking forward to an open session right now.
Sure.
Tabby, if you don't mind coming up, we can talk about both Thailand and Ukraine and all the adventures both of you have had. Okay. We're going to open the panel up for discussion. Anybody and everybody, please come up and have some questions and also maybe some ideas for discussion.
My name is Frank Merkel, I live in Germany. So I have got good friends in Kiev, who also do cardiac surgery there. And so it's a great job you have been doing there, traveling even during wartime, because I tell you that it is quite difficult to get the stuff over there. And so we had a couple of initiatives also from the German Society of Perfusionists. We were gathering money, bought generators, and had them shipped to Kiev and other places. And also, as I was saying, supplies, so medical supplies. And I run a perfusion school, so and I had a whole room of outdated material, like old oxygenators, cannula, everything. So they came with a lorry and they just gave it all away. But it was expired since, I don't know, 2-3 years, but it didn't matter because it didn't have anything there. And I just want to say that it's a great job, but most families with small kids, but a lot of them have now emigrated. They're in Poland, in Germany, and all over European countries. That is also why the number of cardiac cases has gone down, especially in the East, because people have, of course, fled the country. But we're all hoping that this will come to an end in the next, hopefully this year or next year, so that the country can thrive again. And I would strongly suggest to help out if it's possible, because those people, it's not their fault. They're Europeans. So we try to help everything we can. And thank you very much for this initiative.
Thank you.
I hope you guys have time a little later to see the comments and all of the positive, wonderful things folks are saying about both you guys in the chat. But one question for Tabby is, what percentage of the students that graduate work in perfusion compared to the other specialties?
Yeah, that's just a great question, and also the problem. We still on the high demand for perfusionists, but because they can be the sonographer, work in cardiac catheterization, and for the payment rate, which is the same, the perfusionist use the sonographer, which is the same rate. So the percent, I'll say I have only 4 students after graduate work as a perfusionist for now. After we have 5 years open for the curriculum, but we have 2 universities. Our answer for the percent, it should be about 15%. I'll say less than 20% being a perfusionist. Yeah.
And for Brian, there's a lot of people on here that want to know how they can get involved, if they have supplies they can send you, if there are any adult programs in Ukraine that could use help.
Yes, so absolutely. There's definitely an adult need. We have a few sites, Africa being one of them, as the next kind of adult focused, because they do peds already. They want to offer adults to basically do adult surgery to fund the pediatric surgery. As far as helping, you can go to our webpage and volunteer. As soon as you fill out a volunteer form, you'll be on our mailing list. You'll get all the updates for missions, trips. They get filtered to each department as far as which specialty you're choosing, but we take everybody from RTs, interventional cardiologists, anesthesia, perfusion, nurses, pediatricians, everyone, biomed even. So yeah, please volunteer and help. And we take donations as far as equipment and supplies. There's been, throughout these meetings, I've always meet someone who has a pump to donate, capital equipment. We place everything everywhere. And we're really thankful for that. We ship stuff worldwide via freight. And we accept all the donations right now for Ukraine are being sent to Poland right now and then being sent across. So we have a huge warehouse that we have in Poland right now, collecting supplies and then distributing them as needed. So.
Hello, Jim Murray, Rush University, Chicago, Illinois. I'm the guy who goes to Thailand 3-4 times a year over the past 4 or 5 years. Let me start out by saying this. It's probably not what you think it is. I have been to the ORs there. I have sat in on cases. I've been to the cath labs there. I've been to the ICUs there. It is unbelievable. It is so modern. The technology is there. You feel as if you've walked into any OR, any ICU here in America. I unfortunately had to visit an emergency room due to an accident. I will tell you, I had an ER visit, I had x-rays, and as I'm sitting in the treatment room, I'm looking for things that are wrong. I'm looking for dust, I'm looking for dirt, I'm looking for dry blood on the EKG cables in the treatment room. It's all over, right? I didn't see any of it. And after spending time in the ER and the x-ray department, I have to go to the cashier. And I'm thinking, here I am, day 4 of a 14-day trip, it's gonna tap me out. And the cashier says, do you want this in US dollars? And I'm thinking, okay, just give it to me. So ER visit, x-ray department, international hospital that rivals any hospital here in this country was $325. I gave my credit card, they swiped it, I took my bags of stuff, they gave me dressing changing, 2 shopping bags, and I hightailed it out of there because I thought it was a mistake. But it wasn't, because later on I found out that that was expensive in that international hospital that I was in, and that it should have been even a little bit less expensive in other parts of the country. So I have spoken to the students at the university. It is different in that, as Tabby said, their students come out of high school, they are younger, and they have to study for all 4 of those branches. I was there a few weeks ago during the time when they were taking their cumulative exams. Now, cumulative is all perfusion, all cath lab stuff, all echo stuff, all electrophysiology stuff. And so I've given talks there to the students. I've given talks there at their national meetings, and they are passionate about what we do just like we are here. And as Tabby just says, the difference is the salaries are the same for all 4 of those branches of healthcare that they study for. And so the last time I was there to hype them up and say, hey, perfusion is great. Look what you do. You press a button, you turn a knob, you stop the heart that's been beating for 60 years. And I go there trying to convince them of that. But they're young, okay? They're still young. And until they see it, and what we're trying to do is trying to get a simulator there. So if they can see it and feel it and experience it, maybe it'll change some of their minds. Because the perfusionists there work very hard. 2 perfusionists per case. And I tell you, it's ECMO, it's dissections in the middle of the night. It's everything that we see and do here. It's no different. And so, Tabby, thank you for coming here and sharing your story. And I will tell you, there is a term when you start to Google Thailand. There's a term called Amazing Thailand. And that is an understatement, because it is truly amazing. And I have to tell you this story. This is a beautiful hotel and a beautiful venue. I have stayed at beautiful hotels and venues like this in Thailand and paid about $60 a night. I could walk and get street food for $1 or $2 and sit and listen to a band all night long. It's an amazing place.
Sounds like Sanibel, Thailand's happening.
Move the meeting. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Richard, do you have a comment?
I was just going to, to follow on with this and just say it's a real privilege to have you both here to talk about this. I think it comes across so easily is that there are so many assumptions that we make about different countries about, the lower middle income, so that they can't do this, can't do that. But you've actually got people there that will drive with passion and to try and get these things, and to see you guys helping them out. If anybody can join with you to do this, whether it's helping to train people in Thailand, whether it's going over to Kiev, or going over to Ukraine, going over to Gaza, anything like that. At the end of the day, there is a child or there is a patient at the end of it. And what is going on is not their fault. It's got nothing to do with them. And I think we need to separate there's always going to be something in the back of somebody's mind saying, well, I don't know if it's good for our country if we support something else. You're not supporting that country. You're supporting the person that needs healthcare. And I think that is a big, big difference that we need to understand. So having you here to talk about that, that was fabulous. Thank you so much. Where can we sign up? I'll go. I know some of my colleagues from GS have gone across anyway, and they've always spoken really highly about it, because it gives you such a great feeling to learn that you can make a difference, but also the skills that you learn there are very different to other places, and you come back far more rounded person. And I think what we've seen is actually, with people going out to Thailand from here, we're in a unique position where actually we can support everything that's going on. So if anybody can go out to these places, get these things going, and we're going to talk about perfusion across borders a bit later on, but you have given a great example of what can be achieved when you actually have the patients at the center of what you do. So thank you.
Well said. Thanks, Richard.
I do have a couple questions. So Tabby, with regards to the students in the program in Thailand, how many students per class?
To university in Thai program, they have 60 students a year.
60 students.
From our program, 20 students.
To cover those 4 disciplines?
Yes.
Okay, interesting.
And then I mentioned maybe 10%, 15% for the perfusionist,
Okay.
the rest for the other.
Very good.
Let me tell you one thing. That's our sharing about the president of Hong Kong donate the heart lung machine. I don't even have a chance to say thank you, but he's in my deepest heart. I mean, that's my student, Kendra. You also, you will all in the deepest heart of patient, and I believe that's all of us here that you do. Also very appreciate.
That's wonderful. Yeah, you're absolutely correct, Abby. We have a couple more minutes, or you want to? Okay. You know what? I do have a question, and I think this kind of goes to the point of trying to get the young pediatric perfusionists interested in doing what you're doing right now. Okay, because we want, you want more volunteers. I mean, how are you with volunteers right now? With all the locations that you're covering and the ones that you want to still cover, but you might not have enough. I mean,
Exactly. Yeah. So, it depends. So some of our trips are very beginner trips. We're doing ASDs, VSDs, simple stuff, and then it progresses into something else. We have one staff perfusionist that's on with us. He's from Serbia. His name is Lazo, and he does all of our longer term trips. Some of our trips were ministries of health that we collaborate with, are 4 weeks in length sometimes, or a month and a half, and we go pretty routinely. So he staffs most of those. It's more of the kind of one-off trips and the kind of feeler trips we go on that we're looking for volunteers. And like I said, the 2 weeks is hard. We don't go to the most pleasant places, Congo, a lot of Middle East, a lot of Libya, but that's also a deterrent. So we're trying to brand it a little nicer and try to get people to try it out. And once they go, they're volunteers for life. So almost all of our volunteers are repeat volunteers. And then they kind of spread the word. So we try to do it organically. Very rarely do we find ourselves canceling. I don't think we've ever canceled a mission because we couldn't find someone at the last minute. So that's great.
I've gotten the advertisements with the ICHF, and I'm like, I talked to my wife, and I'm like, hon, can I just go? Can I please go? And it's Congo, wherever. And she's like, no, you're not going to the Congo. Now, I'd like to actually go into that. I'd like for you to discuss and hopefully quell any anxiety anybody might have with securities. How secure do you feel when you go to these countries and you're going into, I know we just said it, but Congo or the Middle East? How are you feeling when you are going on these trips?
Yeah, so it varies. The scared I've been was probably in Benghazi. It was probably like the roughest place, just because flying into Benghazi, it was shortly after the ambassador was killed in the embassy, and it's a war-torn country. Even Iraq, we felt more safe because it's just, they were welcoming, they wanted us there. It wasn't like a hostile thing. Congo, again, it's a rough country as far as it's very poor. It's hard to fly into there. But most of the places, we're taken very good care of by our local hosts, with hotels and driving and transportation. The only place where we've had security would be like in Benghazi, Tobruk, some of the kind of countries where, you can possibly be taken, but, it's overall, I think we travel in groups and we go to the hospital, we come back and we haven't had to be evacuated anywhere yet. So.
That's wonderful. And I would highly suggest and encourage any pediatric perfusionist that has, or adult perfusionist that they're able to do mission trips, to do it. It is truly remarkable work that you guys do. I mean, we all are in a profession that is truly God's work, but what you're doing is something very, very special. And I bet you come out of it, and I'm sure you hear this from many volunteers, that they come out very much enriched and feel great of what they've done. And I give you all of the props that you deserve, and on top of that, all the good luck for all the next adventures you might have. All right. And the same to what you guys are doing in Thailand. I mean, it sounds like it's going to be Sanibel, Thailand here soon. So we'll see what happens here. All right. Any other questions? Anything else? Yes.
I was just curious about the logistics of it because, how much of the cases are you pumping? How much teaching are you doing? What's the integration of that? And it sounds also like you're well organized with supplies, which is, I'm sure, really a key component of this.
Yeah, so we actually have a full-time inventory management specialist in Memphis that collects all these supplies. FedEx is headquartered in Memphis, and they're a huge donor for us. So we basically ship for free or at cost most of everything that's FedExed. So when people donate or reach out to me and have, hey, I have 10 pump packs or I have all these cannulas, I give them the FedEx number, they go, boom, sends it to Memphis, and then we sort and allocate it all. As far as the teaching aspect, again, it really depends on country specific what's going on. Some countries that we go to, we won't go unless they have identified a person to learn each position. So we're not going to go in and say, oh, we have a perfusionist, don't worry about it. No, we want someone there identified that wants to sit next to me or whoever and learn to pump the cases. And that's the goal. That's our mission. As far as pumping, we're limited by supplies, so we try to bring enough tubing packs that fit the kids. We have a huge operative list that they send beforehand, so we can have heights and weights, and then 100 alternates because they're all going to get sick at one point, and whatever. So most trips that we go, it's usually 2 a day, depending on if we have 1 OR, 2 ORs, the local staff support. And like we go to Libya where it's basically a Ministry of Health. They need help doing like technical cases. It's a smaller team, but then many more operations. So our surgeon will go from room to room doing kind of the, tedious fine work. And then, perfusionists will be covering and working in those rooms that our surgeon is just for communication reasons and whatnot. But yeah.
Well, thank you very much to the both of you. Also, Isaac, great talk during this session. So thank you very much for your participation and have a great lunch. We'll talk to you in a little bit.